Writers, have you ever struggled with building non-negotiable writing habit? Then this one's for you. Hello and welcome to the Write Anyway podcast from Pages and Platforms and the Happily Ever Author Club. In today's episode, Sue talks with renowned keynote speaker and author Christoph Merrill, who calls himself the habit freak, about how he builds, tests, and maintains habits even through mental health challenges. Let's listen in.
Well, Christoph Merrill, welcome to the Write Anyway podcast. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Hi, Sue. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you call yourself the habit freak.
I do.
I love that because it conveys passion and it conveys discipline all at the same time. So can you tell us your origin story a little bit about how you became the habit freak?
Wow. What a great intro right into habit freak. 2010, I owned a company. We helped people invest their IRAs, their self-directed IRAs. In order to do that, we needed to get in front of a lot of people. So we found a seminar company and we were like, okay, that's a good group for us to go share our message with. Because I knew I was going to be traveling a lot, I kind of had an idea, a goal, if you would, of I want to be a better dad. Not the best dad, but a better dad. My dad, whenever he would travel, there was never a note that was left by my bed. There was never, and again, this was, I'm older, so this was pre-cell phone, territory when I was growing up. So there was no way for him to, call or connect or text or any of that kind of stuff. And I just always felt if I ever travel, if I'm ever gone, I'm going to leave a note for my kids. I want to be very clear, Sue. I did not create this habit as some form of heroics. I never intended at a future date that single habit would ever do anything miraculous for anybody. It was just a simple way of me going, okay, I'm providing for my family, but in order to do that, I have to leave them. So I'm missing out on soccer games. I'm missing out on dance recitals or whatever it is. Like, how do I be a better dad? And I don't mean to make it sound like it was kind of silly, but it actually was kind of silly because every time I traveled, which that year I traveled 42 times that year. So almost every single weekend, I wrote them a note. And at the time we had 3 children. Now we have 4. And so it started as just something simple. Like, you know what? Hey, I hope you have a great day. I'm thinking about you, something. And they evolved over time, but they were never intended to be anything like heroic. Fast forward, from an outside perspective, in 2015, if you looked at my life from the outside, it looked as if I had the perfect life. Was making way too much money, drove the car of my dreams. My wife is absolutely amazing. This year will be 25. I'm going to knock on wood there. At any point, she could realize, what the heck did I get myself into and, tap out? But I don't think she will. And then I told you I have 4 kids, but I have 3 amazing kids. But I never answer which one is not because they rotate every day. But from the outside, it looked like, whoa, this guy would have everything. It seems like, there's nothing going wrong, but somehow, some way, something was disconnected in me and I wasn't feeling right. And I kept kind of intentionally coming up against the exact same wall every time I was trying to move forward. I kind of had this cycle where I would go and then just smack into the wall. And then, it'd take me a little bit of time to recover and then I'd get back up and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I was really struggling with that. And so I made a really big decision. Consequences were dire. And the second, and I do mean the second, before absolute chaos happened in not only my life, because it would have been over, but everyone around me would have been thrown into chaos. A single thought ran through my head. You haven't written the note to your kids for the last time. The crazy part about it, thinking back, so I'm a rabid journaler. So I have, a lot of journal notes about why did I not? I literally had the thought, you haven't written the note to your kids for the very last time. It didn't faze me at all. I simply stopped what I was about to do, grabbed my notebook, which I always carry with me, and I started writing. And I wrote to my son, 8 years old. Hey, I'm going to need you to step up and become the man of the house because dad quit. Oh, like,
Yeah.
still didn't faze me. Went on to my daughter. Sweetie, I'm not going to be around when the stupid boy up the street breaks your heart. Didn't faze me. I got to my third child, second daughter, and I wrote, I'm not going to be there to walk you down the aisle. And it was kind of at that moment that I saw a little bit of their future.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. It was almost as if I was, I was not in reality. And I look around and I go, whoa, I'm not safe. And so I had to call a friend for help, probably the hardest phone call I ever had to make.
Yeah.
And then I had to get help. And that then started me kind of like on this weird journey because I was diagnosed after a stint in the hospital of being bipolar type 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the definition of that, the defining diagnosis, if you would, with the stigma and the cultural, if you Google, people, famous people with bipolar,
Yeah.
most of them are not here anymore.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of shining examples of someone with bipolar type 1. And so in an effort to kind of fight the stigma of being labeled with a mental illness at the time, I don't consider it a mental illness anymore. I consider it like, basically it's like my very own superpower.
Yep.
But being labeled with that, I had nothing to fall back on, but I'm going to say the routine of the day. So before habits, right? Because like before we get to it actually becoming a habit, I think we establish routines. Routines are typically, like most people make New Year's resolutions, right? Like that's a huge thing. And most people fail by January 3rd.
Yeah.
And when I say fail, I don't mean that they like attempted and failed and they're going to try again. They're not trying again. They've given up completely on whatever goal or dream or aspiration that was by January 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew if I was going to change kind of the definition of what being bipolar to me, again, mine is unique. Everyone experiences life in their own way. I needed to start creating routines that were working for me. And so in order to do that, I had to like write down like what worked, what didn't. And I almost had to test everything. Because by testing my habits, by testing that routine, they started to work under pressure. Because that's when I needed them to work the most, right? Like the habit that I had, and I call it the habit that saved my life. Writing those innocent, sweet, never heroic notes to my kids. Most of the time I tried to be funny in some way. Maybe I pushed the line a couple of times on trying to be too funny, but that was pressure tested. No matter where I was, no matter what I was doing, it was almost a non-negotiable habit. Where it just became who I was and what I was going to do, and it saved my life. So pursuing the world, because I think writers especially, right? The habit of writing, I'm going to say regularly, it works under calm conditions. I think most people imagine I'm going to become a writer and they're going to imagine themselves like in a writer's loft or a writer's cabin with, birds, I mean, just the perfect scenario of I have no stress in my life. There's no calm. I have, I've blocked off 3 hours and there won't be an emergency in the middle. And I think that most kind of habit advice is designed or built under those conditions where the moment pressure hits them, they fail. We default back to our kind of, a default operating system, which is just the routines that you've established that you've felt kept you safe.
Exactly. I want to pause for just a minute and honor the story that you told.
Thank you.
And tell you why it's so important to me personally. And I think why it'll be important to a lot of writers out there. So my mother was bipolar.
Okay.
And she is no longer with us.
I'm sorry.
So in 2020, she made a different decision than you made. And it is so helpful for me as someone who's healing to hear stories of people with the same condition who are doing everything that they can, right? So I just want to really honor the bravery in that, and that you are already just on this little micro level. And I know you do a lot of other things, but just for me personally, for our personal connection, you're making a huge difference. And you made a huge difference in the lives of your children, right? Because one of the thoughts that I had immediately after she did this, and I was a grown woman, right, was she threw a grenade at us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
She did.
And I mean, I'm justified in being able to say that, but it wasn't helpful to continue to say, right? I had to shift that over time into like, she did the absolute best that she could at the time with the tools that she had, with the conditions she had, et cetera. But I just want to honor that story and say how I am completely aligned with you on like that habit just that was automatic, subconscious, ingrained behavior that also reached in. Like, I believe we have these parts inside of us, right? That want to help us in some way. One of those parts thought the way to help you was to get you off of the planet. And the part that had that habit reached in and was like, oh no, I got one trick left to pull here.
One trick.
Right? And so that made all the difference. And I think the dramatic examples of your story can serve a purpose for a lot of people in the world who are facing a lot of shit, right? We all have things in our lives that make it not easy. And one of my personal beliefs is that you have to write anyway. If you're a writer and you were put here on this earth to write, you've got to write anyway. Just speaking to your point of like, every time we think we're going to write when conditions are ideal, when the truth of the matter is, and calm, and the truth of the matter is we have to practice writing in the face of every obstacle.
I say tested, not taught.
Say more about that.
So I think, generally speaking, most people want to be good people.
Yes.
I think most people want to be as healthy as they can. However, that requires some difficult choices. Because if I decide I'm going to eat healthier, right? Let's not talk about weight or, losing a specific amount of pounds or whatever. Let's just say I've made the decision, the conscious choice, I want to be a healthier person. But then the day gets away from me and I end up feeling like a tiger chasing my tail. And, I end up running around, putting out fires and doing this, that, and the other. And I look down at the clock and I go, it's 7:12 p.m. I had virtually nothing for lunch and I haven't had dinner yet. And so they drive home, and what are the choices? Fast food, which are all delicious, like intentionally. And they're fast and they're easy. And so at that moment, right, the choice that you made to live healthier is being tested. So if you fail and you eat a cheeseburger on the way home, are you a terrible person? No. But subtly, your subconscious is going to throw you like as much as that subconscious was talking to you about, well, you just drive over to, Wendy's and get a burger. It's easy. And you can get a small one. You don't have to get a big one. And then, when you get home, you can have a salad. You drive up to the drive-thru window and they ask that infamous McDonald's question, would you like fries with that? Why not? Right? Like, I'm already here. Like, you know what? I'll do a salad, that is being tested. For writers, whoa, I don't like most people, if it has not become a non-negotiable habit, it's that weird decision of, well, I don't feel like writing right now. So does that mean that, like, if you have made the decision to be honest and ethical, that if it's tested, you're going to be like, maybe I won't. Again, I'm not placing judgment here, right? Because I can tell you that I use that example specifically because I think most people say, oh, I'm an honest person. I have integrity. I have whatever. But I'll tell you, Sue, the moment you get pulled over for speeding, talk about tested. Because we immediately now our identity is actually threatened. Because the cop is going to walk up and do their job and say, do you have any idea how fast you were going? We don't want to answer the question, because if we answer the question, then we're going to get a ticket. So we're going to try to come up with all of these alternative realities well, did you see that blue car? That blue car was going way faster than I was. Like, how come you picked me out? Like, right? And yet we're going to say that we're honest and ethical and trying to do the right thing. So if a habit is tested, not taught, you have to do it when it sucks.
Yep.
You have to write when you don't want to.
Yep.
You have to write on vacation. You have to write. Like I talk a lot about this. You have to assume the identity of the person, the career, whatever you're idolizing, whatever aspire to be. You have to create that identity. Again, you get to create what that means, and then you have to live that identity. Now, I despise running. I hate running. I literally I cringe thinking about running. However, I admire runners. Runners are weird, kind of like habit freaks that take their
100%.
special running shoes on vacation.
Yep.
And they're in, I don't know, Jamaica, beautiful beach, and they choose to run. Like, gross. Yuck.
Right.
But again, as much as I have this love-hate, kind of relationship with them, I admire to no end the idea that they've already made the decision. It's not a question of, are they going to run? Like they are. They also are aware that they can't run every single day.
Yep.
Because they're going to burn out. Right.
Yep. Or injured. Yep.
Or injured or whatever. So here's the crazy part. If I were challenged to, let's say, run, 5 miles, could I do it? Yes. Could I kind of puff up my chest like a peacock and throw my tail out and be like, yeah, under the right circumstances, you bet I could probably do almost anything. Would I be able to walk the next day? Because here's something that I don't know. I didn't know before I started studying this, that runners actually know that there are more than one set of muscles in their legs. Who, I know, it's like this surprise, right? Like, what? Because if you asked me to run a mile, I would basically just start off I would just start off running. And eventually the front, because that's where most people, when they start, the front muscles burn out. Runners know that they can switch their foot stance to run on their heels, which then engages a completely new and different set of muscles. Whoa. And then they know they can actually alternate between left side and right side. And that then switches the muscles. So you see these marathoners, and let's be honest, some of the marathoners, I don't know how much muscle they have on their body. It looks like muscle, but not a lot. I mean, they're not huge muscles, but I'm like, how is that person running a marathon that fast with those little teeny legs?
Right.
It's because they've tested, not taught, right? Because if you learned how to run on the different muscles, but then you don't test that every day, you don't go run a mile on your front muscles and then alternate to the back muscles and keep running. Oh, like that transition, right? So in the world of writing, well, I'm not feeling it today. Okay. So how do we still have a goal, and how do we still feel like we've accomplished something? How are we still progressing if we don't write? I'm going to be very transparent. Maybe you brainstorm instead. This is where you get to be really creative and say, okay, I'm not going to write, as if I'm not going to sit down and write and, kind of punch out chapter 7, but I'm going to use the whiteboard, and I'm going to map out chapter 7. So this is what I'm thinking. This is where it starts. These are the arcs. This is again, I'm not the perfect person to, you could answer this way better than I could, but that's still doing the work.
Yes. It's like you're touching it.
Don't want to.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're touching it every day. Yeah. Talk to me about, because this is something I try to tell people all the time, because I'm a former procrastinator, Like when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was an absolute hot mess and had a journey where I was like, oh, this actually feels good to honor myself and do what I said I was going to do and develop healthy habits. I'm going to keep doing this because it actually feels way the hell better than what I was doing before. So I try to communicate to people of like, on the days when you don't want to do it and you do it anyway, there is like a really nice neurochemical hit at the end of that.
Totally.
So talk to me about how you feel about on those days when you don't want to do it. What are your tricks for doing it anyway? And then how do you feel at the end?
So my number one trick isn't really a trick. It's a one word: gratitude.
Yes.
The ability to acknowledge to myself. So I am someone, because of my superpower, have had to become radically self-aware.
Yep.
I never wake up the same. I have never had what people would call a Groundhog Day, because mentally, emotionally, I would even say spiritually and sometimes physically, it's totally is the roll of the dice at the worst casino ever, where you're not going to I'm gambling everything and there's no point. So I've had to figure out. So I don't necessarily, for this answer, I don't necessarily talk about a specific habit other than acknowledging why. If I have a habit that fell apart. So one of the things for people that thrive or strive, being bipolar, is, and there's lots of ways. I'm not advocating one particular method, right? I use medication, meditation, therapy, group therapy. My wife and I, 25 years, trust me, we've been through lots of therapy. I am a handful on my good and my worst days. I'm just a different handful. Journaling for me has helped. All of these things, right? So I'm not talking about just one thing. I'm not saying, hey, go be medicated and whatever. Being radically self-aware, if my mind changes, hey, wait a minute, right? Like, instead of just kind of moving on, I have to stop and go, wait, and this is where the gratitude part comes in, I liked where I was at. I liked how I was feeling. I liked how comfortable I felt in my skin for 7 whole minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what changed in the last 3 minutes? Was there a chaos event? Did something happen? I'll use one out of my own life. If my wife or a business partner, or frankly, any of my children, were to text me or call me, and the message that they left, whether text, email, I mean, it doesn't matter how I get it. They could send a pigeon. And if this was written on the message, I already know what would happen. We need to talk. My mind goes to nothing relevant. My mind goes to, holy crap. When I was 7 years old at my grandpa's, he was teaching us how to shoot with BB guns. I foolishly aimed it at a little baby bird and pulled the trigger. And I have lived with that, guilt.
Yeah.
For even now, literally, I get emotional, because I think that's what they want to talk about when they have no, unless I've actually told that story, they have no, that's not what they want, but that's where my mind goes. And then my mind creates this loop around it where I can't let go of it. Yeah. And so I will avoid that phone call, calling them back, texting them back. I might fake a meeting. I don't know if you've ever faked a meeting. Again, my wife's going to listen to this podcast and know game's up, buddy. But oh my gosh, a client called and I'm not going to be home for dinner. You'll probably be asleep by the time I get home. And I will totally procrastinate that conversation. So once I recognized that in me, right? I recognized that the habit of being open, honest, transparent with my wife about what's going on. Immediately I retreat, avoid, procrastinate, you name it, invent stuff. I mean, I will intentionally drive to Home Depot and buy wood to create a project to avoid having the conversation.
Right.
And again, my level of expertise at this, at that level of procrastination is expert level. I pray that you don't get there. So being radically self-aware, pausing and going, wait a minute, why am I inventing a meeting? Like, again, this is real. This is raw. I hope this isn't like too far.
Mhm.
You don't have to share this with anybody. I share it with everybody because I want to help people. I want to let them know that like what they're struggling with, what they're going through, whatever, that pressure that is being applied is that if you create the right habits that are tested, not taught. So it's not something you read in a book. It's not something, you learned on YouTube. You literally tested it day in, day out, day in, day out. That radical self-awareness of rapidly journaling and not where am I, not what am I doing? What does my food look like? Like I have never taken a food photo. That's not true. I had a steak one time I took a photo and I said to my family. Other than that, my journaling is all about what pressure was just applied and how did I respond that I don't like? Like if I like it, I also journal that too.
Yes.
What pressure was just applied? How did I respond? Ooh, I like that dopamine hit that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But I'm on the reverse because I think if you can look at the habits that you have that you don't like easier than you look at the habits that you do like. So what you acknowledge, oh my gosh, that text from my wife is what sent off the alarm bells. We need to talk. Now, I know she wasn't intending any harm. I know that she was 90% of the time it's voice text as she's driving somewhere. And she's, she remembered something like, hey, we need to talk, but she knows I'm in a meeting or she knows I'm on a plane or she knows I'm, speaking at an event or something. And so she's like, he can't talk. He's not going to respond. So like, she's just kind of flagging, hey, come back to me. I want to talk about something. But the alarm, like, oh no. So asking her politely, is there any way you can stop sending me texts that say we need to talk ... and just tell me what you want to talk about? Because then I don't become alarmed. Then I'm not on edge. Then I'm not inventing meetings or, oh crap, I guess I have to fly to Florida instead of come home because I don't want to talk about that little baby bird. Changing that, which I realize is an ask. Like that's a lot. Changed my whole relationship with her in the sense that I was able to share what I was struggling with, but more so how she could help me. See, there's a difference between sharing all of your problems and, problem vomiting, whatever, when you can simply say, hey, babe, like, I'm not feeling great. Is there any way on the way home today you could pick up some bath salts? Because I want to take a bath because that will help me feel better. That will, right? Like that's totally different than saying all the reasons why I'm not happy, why, whatever.
Yeah.
Just letting her know I'm not doing great. And I'm probably going to take a bath, but we're out of bath salts. Is there any way you could pick that direct communication? One, gives her an opportunity to serve me and to be of service to me that I think we sometimes neglect. So the gratitude element, if we go back to it, right?
Yeah.
Is when she sends me a text that says, hey, can we talk about our daughter blank and the decisions that she's going to have to make in the, it doesn't need to be long, but like, can we talk about Grace? Can we talk about, this? My first response is, thank you for sending me the text this way. It feels awkward at first. It feels unnatural. It feels kind of like, why do I need to because she's doing me she's doing us a huge favor. And she's not perfect, but for the most time, the habit of that has been tested and we know it both works.
Yes, exactly.
That's the fun.
And it works, so you keep doing it, right?
Yeah,
it's like getting you the result you want. Sometimes people get annoyed that, well, I have to do that and it takes longer. And it's like, yeah, but it works way better. And it's actually a lot shorter in the long run because nobody spiraled for 24 hours. I want to go back to one thing that you said about
yes, please.
You go to journal and you notice like, why am I not doing the thing I wanted to do? Or why am I doing the thing I wanted to do? And that when people come to me and they say, I run a program about goals, and we set a 3-month goal, and I coach you through, because as soon as you set a big goal, your brain's going to kick up all kinds of garbage and nonsense.
Totally. Yep.
Right? So it's like if you get coached through all of that, you start to be able to do it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So someone will say, hey, I know I said I was going to do this at this time and I didn't do it. And I'm like, great. Tell me what you were thinking right before you decided not to do it.
Yeah. Amen.
Right? And they'll report back and say, hey, I did my word. It feels phenomenal. I'm like, great. What were you thinking right before you decided to sit down and actually do it?
Yeah.
That is incredibly valuable information.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that the way you do that is journaling. So talk to us a little bit about your journaling habit.
So knowing my superpower, right? So I have kryptonite that I electively choose to take. I take one piece of kryptonite at night and one piece of kryptonite in the morning. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about medication. Mm-hmm. Because the element of mania is the chemicals that are released in my brain during my manic states. And I have a long form where I can go weeks without sleep. Yeah. Really scary, crazy, because just physically your body cannot run at that like optimal level. It would be like running a car full speed and literally like somehow having a gas thing connected to it and just continuing. Like a car is not meant to do that.
Yep.
Right? Like, because you're going to, the oil downgrades and whatever, but like, whatever. So knowing that, I have to take some level of kryptonite, which removes the positives on the high side, but it also removes the really scary lows, right? Like September 13th, 2015. That was a very scary day for me, but a very monumentous day for me. So looking at that, acknowledging that, and going, okay, I never want to get back there again. That's goal number one. However, there are days where everything can be going great. I can be really short, not in anger, because it doesn't come from a place of anger. Mm-hmm. It comes from a place of kind of like decision fatigue, where someone is asking me something. I don't really care what they decide, and they don't really care what they decide. So why are we talking about it? I know that sounds horrible. I understand. But it could be my sweet wife. It could be one of my 4 kids. I have 3 daughters. I do not want to be sharp to them.
Yeah.
And so the journaling component is, in the moment, my response is not intended to be mean, but it's mean. It is not intended to be rude, but it's rude. It's not and I'm giving myself credit of saying, like, that's how I responded given everything that was going on. It still doesn't excuse the fact that Dad was a big fat jerk. So if I don't acknowledge that Dad was a big fat jerk, I'm guaranteed that it will offend. I'm guaranteed, because I don't stop. And again, I'm not saying like immediately, because sometimes it doesn't happen immediately, but I don't stop and go, wait a minute, that was not nice what I just said. And it could be the tone. I have a way with tone that I can say the nicest thing to you, but it comes across as if I'm the rudest big fat jerk on the planet. And it's my tone, and I'm not thinking about my tone when I say whatever it is that I say. So therefore, I have to acknowledge, whoa, wait a minute. And then I have to go not ask for permission and not ask for forgiveness. I want to be very clear here, because this is one of those things where you can kind of get like stuck in like the shame game. I do not have shame that it happened, because I cannot, in some instances, I cannot control it. I cannot, it's like a car, like I cannot, it's like there's no steering wheel. I can't change direction. I'm just going this way. But what I can do is I can come back and say, hey, I want you to know that Dad was a big fat jerk. I am doing my very best to not let it happen again, but we both know it is. So I just want you to know that I noticed it, because I think oftentimes that element, the acknowledgement element, is skipped over, where we specifically seek forgiveness. And we kind of skip over because we've offended them. We're feeling embarrassed. So instead of stand there and say, I'm a big fat jerk, and not try to humor it, not try to make it okay, not try to get them to like, oh, you're fine, I love you, I get it. Like, Like, just sit in the moment for 1 second. I am so sorry about what I said. That was not nice. That was rude. Whatever it is, and just acknowledge it. That's, to me, a huge form of gratitude. Not that it happened, but that I could acknowledge that it happened.
Yep.
That it could then become an element that I'm working towards. I love the word strive, because that doesn't mean perfection.
Yeah.
I love the word, like, so striving, I'm striving to be a better dad. Allows me the empathy towards myself that, hey, you're a big fat jerk. But the fact that you noticed it means that you're trying. The fact that you noticed it means that you're not just a big fat jerk going around doing big fat jerk things.
Right.
Because I don't want to be that person. And that person, that identity isn't who I am. And so if I don't stop and pause, right? And so for me, the journaling is where I'm like, like my mood is off. Something's like, what is it? What happened? Okay, let's replay the last 20 minutes. Let's replay the last 3 hours. Let's replay the last 24 hours. Was there I remember my sweet 13-year-old came up to me and was trying to tell me something, but I was in the middle of finishing a project. And when I get radically focused on something, the interruption, I barked at her. And I even, she asked if I wanted to go play Minecraft with her. And I said yes, but I didn't say it in a nice way. I said something to the effect of of course I'd love to play Minecraft with you when I'm done doing what I'm doing, so go away.
Right.
Ooh, not nice. Big fat jerk.
Yep.
So then, okay, so what could I do? So as awkward as this is, on Dad's work office, I have a little thing I hang on the door. If it's red, under threat of death. I mean, if you want to be barked at, come on in. And I have a daughter who likes to, she likes to fight. She's good. So anytime it's red, it's she'll just,
I have one of those too. Yeah.
Bingo. Let's go test all of my habits on Dad, right? Because we know he's going to fail, but he's going to test us. And most of the time it's yellow. And yellow isn't don't, it's just caution. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know. And then there are lots of times where and here's where for me, I have to be very intentional about my time. I have to not only put green on the door, but the problem is the door kind of starts to get avoided because it's been red for so long because Dad's diving down a rabbit hole. So I have to remember to schedule time with each of my daughters and my son and my wife regular to go be green with them. What do they need? What do they want to talk about? And oftentimes, I have a daughter who's at college, and we started when she was younger, a tea party. And we've had virtual tea parties, right?
Oh.
And she opens up more in those moments than she does many of the times where I intentionally take her out to dinner and, hey, where do you want to go? And we'll go wherever she wants to go. And we don't chat.
Yep.
And then we eat and I'm awkward and I'm how do I, I'm like a dentist trying to pry a tooth out with no Novocaine. But yet other times, right, specific times that are set up, all of a sudden, I get that one-on-one time that I know she needs and I need it more. And then that creates that awesome thing. But then I have to go back to gratitude.
Yes, that is beautiful.
Thank you for setting aside that time to go be with me.
Yes.
Because I loved it, right? And again, notes and that kind of thing are that's just, I'm very tactile. So the feel of the paper, the special graphite pen that I have, all of that is that big kind of thing. You probably haven't been able to see it, but I've been playing with Play-Doh this whole time.
Oh, nice.
It's a soothing technique for me so that I can and so those little notes of very simple. Yep. Thank you for letting me take you to McDonald's last night and getting McFlurries.
Yep.
Even though I hated mine. That doesn't matter.
Right.
It's about, so that journaling is, again, I come back to radical self-awareness.
Yep. Yeah, that's really one of the best tools, especially for writers, right? For that self-awareness. Like, what is going on with me when I'm writing?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I writing? When I'm not writing, why am I not writing? And like really looking at that and getting to the habit of looking at that is so important. Well, this has been absolutely delightful, Christoph.
Same.
Thank you so much. Do you want to tell everybody what you have going on in the world, where they can learn more about you?
Sure. Easiest way to find me is Christoph. Yes, I'm frozen famous. Christoph Merrill, MERRILL.com. Or you can find me at Habit Freak. Habit Freak is in a redesign right now, but if you go to it, it'll redirect you somewhere else. Most of the time, I am speaking or talking to audiences, or I've recently started doing podcasts because it's fun to get asked questions I've never been asked. So, Sue, thank you so much for not asking me the exact same, 12 questions. I appreciate you, the directness and the focus means a lot, and I got a lot out of this. So thank you so much.
I got a lot out of it too, and I hope our audience did as well. Thank you so much, Christoph, and we'd love to have you back anytime. Actually, we do a summit every fall called the Write Anyway Summit, and I'd love to have you back for the summit.
That would be awesome. I'd love to do that.
All right. Take care.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
If you'd like a weekly dose of writing insight and mindset and marketing tips in your inbox, subscribe to the Write Anyway newsletter at pagesandplatforms.com/subscribe. And that's it for this episode of the Write Anyway podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.